How you doing, Jersey? Welcome to the Star Ledger Newsroom, Wednesday, November 5th. All right, we have two big stories here in New Jersey besides, of course, yesterday's historic presidential election. The first is that New Jersey will be sending more Democrats to the Congress in the year to come. Democrats extended their edge in the state's congressional delegation to 13 seats. I mean, from 7 to 8 of 13 seats when John Adler defeated Republican Chris Myers. Adler will replace Jim Saxton, a Republican who is retiring. Also, this morning there was already speculation that Governor John Corzine could be under consideration as Treasury Secretary in an Obama administration. Our reporter Josh Margolin is reporting this morning that they are already beginning the vetting process on Corzine. That's the background check that would be critical to him being tapped for that position. Corzine, of course, is being coy, as politicians usually are in this situation, saying he is interested but loves his job here as governor, and that's what these guys have to do. They can't look too interested and look like they're lobbying for the position, and he also doesn't want to look like he does not want the job. So for more on both of those stories, click on our news blog at NJ.com. Throughout the past few weeks, nobody has logged more miles and spoken to more people in New Jersey than our columnist Mark DiIonno about this election. He has sat down in the weeks leading up to the election with different groups of voters in different parts of the state, ranging from inner city high school students to middle-aged and older women in more rural parts of the state. And yesterday, he was all over the place, crisscrossing from one town to the next, along with photographer John Munson, taking the pulse of voters on this historic election day. Check out the video.
My mother and dad always said, you have to vote, otherwise you can't bitch.
It's a historic election day in New Jersey. I'm Mark DiIonno from the Star Ledger, and we're taking a little road trip today to go to some of the most interesting and historic towns in New Jersey to talk to people about how they are voting today and how they have voted in the past. Basically, this is the most democratic town in New Jersey. This is the one that has more registered Democrats than any other place.
The flavor of the town is as a working class town. That's very much the flavor.
Like there's 11 Republicans, 10, 12?
10, 12 sounds about right, huh? Yeah. Hey, last year there was only one. That's the truth. There was only one last year. One registered anyhow.
So you have two brothers in the Air Force, and so you're very familiar with sort of that culture.
One of the things talking to them is like they just don't want another 4 years of Bush. That was definitely one of the expressions that you get around here.
I was a Bush supporter. I'm probably one of the 30% of the people who are still Bush supporters. I think the failure of the Bush administration is one of communication,
Absolutely.
not one of action.
I think that every state is either blue or red, and it's not going to change just because of a candidate, just because of one candidate. I was registered Democrat, and I changed to Republican just so that way I could have a chance in the primary, because usually in the primary in this county is where the decision's made.
Your family was one of the founding families of the town when it was chartered in 1921 as the first black governed town north of the Mason-Dixon line, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're surprised I knew all that, right?
You read it.
What does today mean to you personally?
This means a lot. To live to be my age and to see a black man, Obama, running for president of the United States. It's an honor to be able to come out and vote.
That's great stuff. And did you see the first woman that they spoke to that was not an error or the place where the interview was taking place? That woman's name really was Sandy Hook. You can talk to Mark about this election forever. He's really been quite a set of eyes and ears out there, and the stories that he's brought back over the past few weeks have been really compelling. So we decided to do that and sit down and talk with him a little bit more. He stopped by just a short while ago. You talked to so many people and logged so many miles in the past few weeks leading up to this election and yesterday. What's going to really stick in your head? What is going to be your lasting impression of this?
You know, it sounds like a really almost a stupid thing to say, but you know, when we talk about red state, blue state, and how, you know, we paint with these very broad brushes, but when you actually start to drill down a little bit and talk to people individually, everybody has their own set of values and their own set of ways of looking at things, and some of those are, geographic. They come together in a particular town. I think one of the things we saw yesterday was, there are enclaves of people who are comfortable around each other. They think the same. They like being around each other, and there's these little pinpoints of red and blue, not just one big swath.
And so 20 years from now or 30 years from now, when you look back, are there any images, are there any particular things that you saw or reported on this election that's going to stick in your head, that's going to be sort of the memory you take away from the reporting experience?
I think the passion that people brought to the Obama side was just fascinating. And they talked about being inspired. It was almost like a religious zealousness. The older African-American woman in the video had tears in her eyes and was very emotional and very measured in her words. Like, this is a historic event, and what I'm going to say to you now is a historic document.
People had that sense. I mean, I was at the polls, and there's a father bringing his 3 kids to the polls saying, I want my kids to see this, I want them to be part of this. And that was everywhere.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that. Grandparents with their grandchildren, people with their children, just saying, like, this is our process, and you should be involved in it. You should remember this as a historic moment. Down in Lawnside, I spoke to a man, a 70-year-old man with his 4-year-old granddaughter, and his lens on this was like, when I was 4, never would have thought there would have been a black president ever in my lifetime. And here is a kid who her earliest memories are going to be of the day that Barack Obama was elected.
Completely different. All right, Mark, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
When Obama was declared the winner last night by the networks, there's quite a bit of celebrating erupted in my neighborhood. There was a lot of cars, horns honking, fireworks. I went outside to see what was going on, and I think this is a moment I'll never forget. I got to the end of my driveway and looked over and saw my neighbor leaning out her screen door, just yelling out into the street, "Alleluia, Alleluia." And I think that scene was repeated across New Jersey and across the country last night in a lot of places, especially among African Americans who took part in the struggle for civil rights. One of those places was a church here in Newark on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Reporter Jen Weiss was there and has this video.
About 100 people gathered last night at St. James Church in Newark to cheer on their man, Barack Obama, and watch him make history.
I have not slept since 2:30 this morning, and I told my kids, I teach school over at St. James Prep, and I told them this morning that it really felt like somebody was taking me to Disneyland this morning. I was just so excited and so happy to be casting this vote.
My grandmother was not able to write her name. She only made X's. So for me to be able to stand there, I gladly stood with the privilege of voting for this candidate that she would have loved to see. And I voted for him because I thought he was qualified.
I think that he's a good guy, and I think that he deserves to be president because he's caring and he said the things that he would do for us, and I know that he will.
This is the first time I can actually say that I feel like I'm actively a part of history taking place. One, because I had to participate by voting, and 2, just being able to have this experience with a number of other people who are just as actively as interested in their future.
I was in Washington in '63 during the March on Washington, and I stood at the Lincoln Memorial and looked in the mouth of King. He dreamed of a time when you did not judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the context of his character.
A lot of people, when something historic happens, they like to save the front page of the newspaper. I think there's something about the front page of a print newspaper that sort of memorializes an event and kind of keeps it really there in your memory as a keepsake. The way the media is changing, we're not sure how many more elections there's going to be print front pages around too much longer. So at least one more election, there are front pages memorializing the event. And we're going to leave you today with a sampling of those from around the world.
That their voices could be that difference. It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, disabled and not disabled, Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.